election. Even as this matter is with the JPC, there are two views between the allies, the government and the opposition. But what is Bharat's mood? Over the next few minutes, we will take you through key responses on the uniform elections. We bring you this exhaustive survey on the day the JPC or the Joint Parliamentary Committee is meeting on One Nation, One Election. First up, let's try and understand with the survey methodology. What have we tried to cover? What is the expanse of this survey? One Nation, One Election. 4,573 respondents interviewed across 29 states and union territories between the 23rd and the 31st of December 2024. 81.7% of the respondents between the age of 26 and 55, and nearly 68% have indicated that they have had college or higher education. So, we have tried to survey those who would understand the implications of One Nation, One Election, spread across 29 states and union territories, and try to understand what is their mood, opinion on ONOE. Let's get to the first question straight up without much further ado. So there are 9 questions overall. We have asked 9 questions. We bring to you the first 2 questions right away. The first question is, do you support simultaneous polls for Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha? 80% of the respondents have said, yes, we would like to see simultaneous elections for Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha. So this is contrary to what some of the regional parties, some of those parties who are members of the India Alliance have come and espoused or voiced here on News 18. But viewers, respondents of the News 18 Pulse poll say 80% of them say, yes, we would like to see simultaneous elections for the Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha. That means the Parliament and the state assemblies. 16% have said no. 4% don't have an opinion yet. They have not yet formed an opinion. So clearly there is a huge number of people, huge number of our respondents, 4,573 respondents across 29 states and union territories, 80% of whom are saying yes, we would like to see One Nation, One Election. So now let's take the second question. Do you believe simultaneous polls will save public money? That's the next question. Will simultaneous polls save public money? What is the understanding of the educated respondent? Because nearly 68% of these respondents have had college or higher education. So what are they saying? They are saying 81% of them are saying yes, this will save public money. Your and mine tax-paid money, taxpayers' money, which is being spent for this continuous cycle, never-ending, relentless, perennial cycle of elections. It will be saved. 81% believe that. 13% say no, not sure. People who still haven't formed an opinion on this is 6%. But an overwhelming number, above 80% so far for the first 2 questions. Will it save money? And should Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha be held together? The answer is in the affirmative. Yes is what they say. Payal Mehta now joins us. Payal, this is on the day that the JPC is meeting. There have been repeated attempts to try and stall proceedings in the JPC on One Nation, One Elections. What is the mood today? Because so far, out of the 9 questions that we've asked, we put out 2 questions. Should Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha elections be held simultaneously? 80% of the respondents say yes. Will it save public money? 81% of the respondents say yes.
Well, of course, the Joint Parliamentary Committee, Anand, is holding its first meeting in Parliament just as we speak. And members have assembled just a short while ago. Today is going to be just an introductory meeting where essentially they will be told about the provisions of the bill. The Law Secretary, various officials within the Ministry of Law and Justice are currently deposing before the panel. They'll explain to the committee members across both houses of what the provisions of the bill really are, what are its implications, etc. as well. Because remember, the bill was introduced, Anand, in the Lok Sabha, and after the introduction in the Lok Sabha, the bill was sent to the Joint Parliamentary Committee, which essentially means that, whatever had to be discussed, even the basic discussion did not take place in the Rajya Sabha. So the Rajya Sabha members, for them, this is going to be a fresh briefing of sorts to understand from the Ministry of Law and Justice as to
Right.
why the bill has been brought, what are the provisions of the bill, why are there constitutional amendments that are required. So just a basic briefing will take place today, after which
Right.
the committee will extensively decide on who they need to speak to. Because Prime Minister Modi has said, Anand, that not just the parliamentarians, not just members of the Legislative Assembly, the biggest stakeholder in this reform is going to be the people of the country, which essentially means that a public outreach will also take place, and the committee will in fact be touring multiple states and also
Right.
discussing this with the assemblies. So this is going to have consequences for them as well.
Now, will there be constructive conversations or will there be derailing and stalling like we saw the JPC around the Waqf amendments? We'll have to wait and watch. Payal, stay on with us. You had a conversation with the JPC head, PP Chaudhary, the JPC chairman, on ONOE. Let's listen in.
पीपी सर, बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट मीटिंग है आज, और आप किस तरह से देखते हैं, क्योंकि प्रधानमंत्री का ये मानना है कि ये पूरे कंसेंसस के साथ इस बिल को आगे बढ़ाना है।
देखिए, जब ये पार्लियामेंट में बिल आया, उसमें हमारे गृह मंत्री जी ने फ्लोर ऑफ द हाउस और बिल्कुल माना उन्होंने कि सरकार का मानना है, प्रधानमंत्री जी का मानना है कि इसमें एक वाइडर कंसल्टेशन हो, सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स को सुना जाए और उसके साथ साथ सभी मेंबर का एक कंसेंसस हो, अपनी मेरिट पे डिसाइड हो और हम अनबायस्ड माइंड से काम करेंगे। और मेरा प्रयास ये रहेगा कि सब जो है हम कमेटी में एक कंसेंसस सभी लोगों का साथ एज फार एज पॉसिबल हम कंसेंसस एक अराइव करें, क्योंकि ये बहुत बड़ा इलेक्शन रिफॉर्म है। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी का जो विजन है, ये देश का जो खर्चा बचाने का, मैन पावर जो खराब हो रहा है, जीडीपी का जो नुकसान हो रहा है, तो इसीलिए मेरा मानना है कि मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि सभी मेंबर मिलकर के हम अनबायस्ड तरीके से और वी विल डिसाइड एंड वी विल मेक द रिकमेंडेशन ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ इट्स ओन मेरिट।
आज पहली मीटिंग है सर, आज क्या होगा? आज कोई ब्रीफिंग होगी या मेंबर्स बात कर पाएंगे? क्या होगा आज?
देखिए, आज तो इनिशियल इंट्रोडक्शन है, ब्रीफिंग है, लॉ मिनिस्ट्री ब्रीफिंग करेंगे और उसके बाद में मेंबर से हम डिस्कस करेंगे कि आगे हम कैसे प्रोसीड करना। क्योंकि मैं कभी ये नहीं चाहूँगा कि इसको मैं किसी तरह से ऐसा महसूस नहीं हो कि बुलडोज कर रहा हूँ। हम सभी मेंबर्स की कंसेंसस लेंगे, क्योंकि जितना मुझे इनपुट मिलेगा, जितना मैं सभी लोगों से राय लूँगा, हमारे 30 मेरे समेत 39 हैं, हम 38 मेंबर से सभी से हम राय लेंगे और सभी से सलाह मशवरा करके हम आगे बढ़ेंगे नेशनल इंटरेस्ट में।
So it will be a collective effort in national interest. So let's try and quickly recap for our viewers tuning into the special broadcast. The first two questions of the News18 Pulse survey, the exhaustive survey across 29 states and union territories on one nation, one election. So let's understand. The first question that we put out is, do our respondents believe that there should be simultaneous elections for the Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha? 80% of the respondents have said yes, we would like to see simultaneous elections for Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha. 16% have said no. 4% still do not have an opinion on this entire matter. But an overwhelming number have given the green light for simultaneous elections for the Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha. Now, let's quickly flip to the second question that we've asked. The second question that we've asked is, do you believe simultaneous polls will help save public money? Your and mine tax-paid money, taxpayers' money. 81% of the respondents, you see that there, have said yes, we believe that simultaneous elections will save public money, money of the exchequer. So clearly the mood, at least for the first two questions, we should tell our respondents, tell our viewers that we have 9 questions across 4,573 respondents, and these are spread across 29 states and union territories, and quite a overwhelming number of these respondents are educated, college or higher education. and they have come back and given these responses for the first two questions. We'll share with you two more questions in a short while, but first let's go across to Siddharth Yadav, spokesperson of the BJP, Tehseen Poonawalla, political analyst, and Sanjeev Srivastava, senior journalist. My namaste, Jai Hind and Jai Bharat to everybody. Thank you very much. Sanjeev Srivastava, let's start with you. Your thoughts, where do you stay, where do you find yourself? You're still sitting on the fence on one nation, one elections, or you're not convinced it makes sense?
No, I'm not sitting on the fence. If the answer has to be just in yes or no, I am in favor of one nation, one election because it makes sense. I think the biggest benefit of it will be that the country will not be in a 24/7, 365 days, 5-year cycle of elections, and you can focus more on governance. But I have several buts, which if you have time, I'll just enumerate a few. When you talk about money being saved, yes, it's public money will be saved, no doubt. But the 90% of the expense in election is political parties and candidates' expenses. So that will remain the same, and that also helps somewhere the country's economy, the number 2 economy. So many people are dependent on that expenditure. So public money will be saved, yes, but the private money, which is I think 10 or 50x more than public money, or 100x more maybe. I have no calculator to estimate that. But that will not be saved. Number 2, the big issue with this entire debate is that what Mr. Kovind has recommended, that if the parliament passes it with a certain majority, I think it will be 2/3, 360 is the number required, then it should be okay. But when you are talking about simultaneous elections, how can you not take the view of states? It has to be ratified by states. And this proposal of Mr. Kovind, and to the best of my knowledge, does not talk about ratification from the states. So now you're talking about democratic exercise without taking into account the states, which I find so a little odd and not correct.
I think
these issues, if they are addressed, I would really raise my hands for one nation, one election. Why not? And we had them till 67. And it's a fair exercise. And of course, it gives an undue advantage to the national party. National parties, big parties, big popular leaders, because a narrative gets set.
Now, if we look at it the other way, if just playing the devil's advocate here before we open it to Tehseen and Siddharth Yadav, Sanjeev Srivastava, the fact is, if you're talking about private money or the number 2 money, if there is going to be simultaneous election, then the amount spent is going to be... I'm just saying whatever they play, the political parties are spending this money, they're spending it only for one time. They don't have to say, oh, I've just finished the Lok Sabha, now I got to recharge, rebuild and recollect funds and generate funds separately for the Vidhan Sabha. So clearly the aspect of corruption, the aspect of trying to shore up donations, or anything else also reduces drastically. Secondly, what about the regional satraps? Someone like an Akhilesh Yadav would have wanted the UP elections to happen simultaneously with Lok Sabha 2024, especially when the kind of performance that they turned out in Lok Sabha. They would have actually licked their chances that had it happened, had Vidhan Sabha also happened, they may have had a chance to not just perhaps come back very strongly in opposition, but maybe even topple the government. So the argument swings both ways. You have cases of Andhra Pradesh, cases of Odisha, cases of Arunachal Pradesh, where the people on ground have voted very differently. So it goes, yes, but this perennial cycle is not just the election expenditure, sir. The perennial cycle of elections also costs us in terms of schools being shut down, administrative work being shut down, government work, bureaucracy shutting down work and not doing anything till once the model code of conduct kicks in. So that is also the unseen cost to the country and to the economy and the GDP, and that's why they said that it could have an impact of as much as 1 to 1.5% of the GDP. But Siddharth Yadav, why should the states not be consulted?
Don't give me a chance to... I'll
come back. We'll come. I'm just making observations. And then we'll take it further. Everybody is going to weigh in with their opinions on this. Siddharth Yadav.
No, Anand, definitely consultation has to happen. And the reason that consultation is the priority of the government, that is why a panel was formed. The panel has done a very wide consultation across the country. It took several months, several opinions were taken from different strata of the society. All those compiled together, a report was made. Now we have sent it to the legislative consultation process. A JPC is formed. JPC is doing to do consultation, give their opinions and do that. It is for the larger good of the country. For such issues, all political parties, I think, should come on one board. They should come together with a positive mindset, a positive attitude, and contribute positively of how we can do this best. Because all of us know that this is for the betterment. Now, had this not been for the betterment, I think the constitution framers or our forefathers would not have allowed it to happen. The simultaneous elections happened in 52, 57, 62, all the times when we as a country, became a republic and we started off our journey as an independent country. We started off with simultaneous elections. It was only after one political party would choose, who choose that governments have to be toppled and Article 356 was misused, and all of this happened. Now today we know expenses is one aspect. Definitely, we are spending, according to the reports in 2019, I think 60,000 crores in the last election was spent. So when such large expenses are happening, policy paralysis happen. Everybody knows that we are always in election mode. Political leaders are in election mode. Forget that. The executive of this country, the functionaries, the administrative functionaries. Now Delhi assembly elections are happening. I can tell you, and I bet one survey for this should also happen, that how many employees of the central government which are serving in the central government have been summoned by the election commission to do election commitment in Delhi. Now for 2 months, all those departments of the central government are also going to be understaffed because elections are happening here. Haryana elections happened. Lok Sabha elections happened. 6 months later, 4 months later, Vidhan Sabha elections happened. Now, Haryana is preparing for municipal elections. So, in 1 year, in 2 years, we are doing three elections, four elections in states. So, effectively, every state is facing elections every year. Now, this cannot be an ideal situation for any country which has to progress. No. So, I think it's a very progressive step, and everybody should contribute progressively.
See, every political party stands to gain or lose whichever prism you would like to see, and this entire constant going back and doling out doles, that compulsion for political parties to somehow woo the voters also comes back and hurts the taxpayers only, because eventually it's coming from there, and that's only about 9 to 10 crore people. It's not who are funding or who are footing the bills majorly. If you discount the indirect taxes, direct taxes come from there only. Tehseen Poonawalla.
Good evening, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you for having me on the show. Completely unconstitutional. Apart from being astounded that the ex-president of India, Ram Nath Kovind ji, agreed to head a committee, which has never happened in India, that an ex-president is headed a committee. I am surprised that the basic structure of the constitution is being allowed to be destroyed in the way after Keshav Nanda Bharti judgment 1973. And there are people who even think this can be legitimate, as Sanjeev Bhai rightly said. And for one, I am that we must have one nation, one election. At the face of it, it seems very good. But none of you on this panel, with a lot of humility, can give me the data that says how costs will be reduced. Because that's a very vague statement to say 60,000 crores got spent, 40,000 crores. I have read this report. There is no data that says how it will be reduced. That's point number one that points to it. Point number two, and black money cannot be taken into consideration. That cannot be a force of data. Something illegal cannot be taken into consideration. Number two, look, Sanjeev Bhai made a very valid point. Apart from the constitutional, let me first come to the parliamentary changes. Article 83, 85, 172, 174, 356, and changes in the 1951 People's Representation Act will need to be done. But apart from that, the state legislators will also need to ratify it. This proposal does not ask the state to ratify it. So let's assume I am Maharashtra today, which is a BJP government. Why should I, and now let's not get into BJP Congress. I am Maharashtra, I've just won. Why should I give up my government because somebody in Delhi feels that, hey, let's have one nation, one election? It doesn't work like that. And my assembly will not even be allowed to vote about it. So I, as a Maharashtrian, sitting here that have voted a government, does not have a right to decide why did I vote this assembly? Somebody in Delhi decides it. Why should that be? Why should Delhi decide for me in Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu or Odisha or elsewhere? Okay. Point number three, I think this is now extremely important. The entire legislators will become toothless. Once the assembly continues for 5 years, so suppose you still, the way this is drafted by Ram Nath Kovind ji, the assembly will continue till there'll be the next round of one nation, one election. So should they lose a majority? How do the MLAs hold the executive accountable? No answer for that. Lastly, Let's ask the BJP. Now, let me make this political, put its money where its mouth is. You want one nation, one election? Let's do it tomorrow. Will the Honorable Prime Minister resign and have the union government along with it? They don't want to do it for the union government, but the union will decide what states will do. Why should that work? This is a partnership between union and states.
I think what we had put out here at News 18, CNN News 18 very clearly is that this is not aimed at 2029. This is after the next census, the delimitation exercise is completed. The build-up will be for the 2034 Lok Sabha elections, and at that time, the effort will be to slowly, and also when women's reservation kicks in, 33%, and of course the expansion of the parliament happens, and thereafter you get into a system, and at that point in time, any state or every state, irrespective of which political party has its government, they will be impacted. Aman and Pallavi are also with us. Just shown some light on this, Aman. Are there not provisions that if there is a government toppling in between, if there's for some unforeseen changes, doesn't Mr. Ramnath Kovind's recommendation consider that? And is this entire thing true that he is trying to say that if there are more than 360 people who say aye in parliament, then we don't need the states to approve this?
Well, Anand, first coming to, I think, the Congress objection specifically, till 1967, we all know that there was one nation, one election in this country under the reign of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So the Congress today is saying that one nation, one election is unconstitutional or against the federal structure is pretty ironic. That said, we just have been announced Delhi elections yesterday. Delhi will be in model code of conduct for the next 1 month. Last year, Delhi was under model code of conduct for 2 months during the Lok Sabha elections. So this is the perennial problem that a state goes under model code of conduct multiple times, and this leads to stoppage of all work. Delhi's people are an example of how intelligent the voter is to differentiate between a Lok Sabha election and an assembly election. Similarly, they are voting for BJP in Lok Sabha, they're voting for Mr. Kejriwal in assembly. If the election happens together, that may well happen. Even then, we've seen that in past in Odisha and Andhra Pradesh as well.
Right.
That said, the rules are very clear, and until this one nation, one election will not come till 2034. After 2029, Lok Sabha elections are held. Whichever state goes to polls, be it in 2030, for example, if UP polls in 2030, just for example, it will have a 4-year term. If Odisha polls in 2031, it will have a 3-year term. Whichever, it is irrespective of political affiliation, whichever state polls in whatever year, it will have the remainder of the term, and from 2034, everybody will start getting a 5-year term simultaneously with the Lok Sabha. If a government falls after 2034, example, Anand, if 2036 UP government falls, for example, there will be immediate election again. But that term will only extend for rest 3 years, not for a full 5 years, so that the schedule is not disturbed. So I think the main heart of one nation, one election is that cost is saved, time is saved, people don't have to queue up again and again for voting multiple times. You vote once in 5 years, and that is decided. Don't question the intelligence of the Indian voter. He can differentiate between a state election, who can be the same, who can be the PM.
And somewhere also act as a deterrent that you don't try and topple elected governments in between the terms. So because you know that it's going to be a shortened or a truncated term and you will have to go back to the ballot again. Pallavi, are the states going to be bypassed?
I mean, let me give you... No, let me give you a quick example to add on to that. We also know that every year we all look forward to the union budget, which is going to happen on 1st of February. The Election Commission has made it very clear that, you cannot have Delhi-specific, kind of announcements as far as the union budget is concerned. But the union budget could have specific as far as other states which are not going for polls. Why should Delhi lose out? That's the argument which often comes in from Finance Ministry, that our hands are tied. They are development projects. When we feel that a particular area needs more attention than the others, but very often we are not able to do it because there's an election happening. So if there's a uniform platform, that is a problem or an issue which can be taken care of. That's one point. Very quickly, as far as states concerned, well, that's exactly the ground of opposition which is coming in from the opposition parties. See, if you look at the opposition about the ONOP is coming, it is actually coming in from the opposition ruled states, from those political parties which are not a part of the NDA, because they fear, one, it tinkers with the entire federal structure, because the centre is going to arbitrarily decide, to use their words, that whether they're going to be in power or not, when those elections are going to be held. And also the second thing that they're saying is that we know the way the BJP works. Again, I'm quoting them. They said the BJP is in cahoots with the Election Commission. How do we know it's going to be free and fair? How do we know they're not going to dictate that what is happening at the Lok Sabha level will also not be replicated at the state level? Facts contradict them. Odisha is one prime example. People at state level always vote differently from the Lok Sabha level, and that is the point which the BJP and the central government and the defenders of ONOP are making.
True, and within Himachal also, Himachal voted differently, Maharashtra voted differently, albeit over different periods of time, and it was not simultaneous. Sanjeev Srivastava, swinging back to you before we bring in questions 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I'd like to count this after
So,
that.
Yeah, sure.
what Pallavi said and what Tehseen said, and even the BJP spokesperson, Mr. Yadav, said. See, the basic premise, I have no confusion about, that we should have one nation, one election. But the manner in which it should be done, that it is not your 81% voting for it. It should be 100% agreement. All political parties should be on the same page. It should not only be fair, it should be seen as fair. It seems that again, this almighty center wants to do something which it thinks is right for the country. So the rest of the country should follow. Like you said, this money wala issue, though, we don't know how much money will be saved and what is the parallel economy which is kind of involved in this election exercise, which is much more than the government expenditure. Number two, okay, so different people vote differently. Odisha, we saw 2 times parliament elections,
Right.
BJP won. Local elections, BJD won. This time it is on the same page. But that is the will of the people, so they are intelligent. But the argument against it is that at least there is an attempt by holding simultaneous elections to influence the people opinion, because the center is trying to do that. Whether the people are agreeing or not is a separate issue. Again, how can you decide on a subject which involves states, assemblies, their tenure, their kind? Who are you to decide that they will have a 3-year term and they will all their next term will be.
This is not something.
Finally, this is a very rare, and finally, it's very rare that something which will come into play in 2034, they have enough time to build a proper consensus so that everybody is on board. I'm so happy that we are discussing something which is going to happen 10 years down the line.
Correct. There is a reason why we are doing this, because most states then have at least 2 electoral cycles.
Because of the JPC today.
No, not just the JPC, there is also that most states, irrespective of political parties, all political parties will have at least 2 electoral cycles to deal with this issue. One. Second, you are also able to get inputs. Now, there was a conversation which said that if 50% of the states, out of 29 states and union territories, all of them, if 50% of the states and union territories overall vote in favor of one nation, one election, then also this can be passed. Now, there can be something, you will never have a 100% consensus on certain aspects. Even with 370, abrogation of Article 370, the Sansad never came in 100% unison. But there were 370 people who came together, parliamentarians who voted in favor of the abrogation. So, to get 100% consensus is never going to happen, and that is quite utopian to say. But if it is 80%, if majority agree, then it becomes significant. Tehseen, I have to go across to the next 2 questions and then I'll come back to you. So then we'll take the conversation forward.
Okay, perfect.
Right. Let's quickly look at questions 3 and 4. So first 2 questions that we asked, and Siddharth, coming to you also. So, will ONOE or one nation, one election reduce disruption like traffic jams, school closures? Yes, say 81% of the respondents. 13% say no. 6% are still not sure. So this is the other aspect, disruption of public life. Delhi, for example, for 2 months during the Lok Sabha elections, there was no work done in Delhi. Now over the next month and a half, there will be no work done in Delhi. Most of these states are going across with this, and then there is Chunav, there is Prachar, there is campaigning, and when there is campaigning, there is VIP movement, Neta movement, traffic jams will happen, schools will be called into administrative duties, again disruption. So people are saying, does that affect my life or not? Does that take away my work hours, person hours? Does that take away my time? Yes, and time is money. Will the voter get confused while picking Lok Sabha and assembly candidates? That's the next question. Let's quickly go across to the next question. Will the voter get confused while picking assembly and Lok Sabha candidates? Now, this is where 39% are saying yes, there will be confusion, and it's quite neck and neck here. Nearly 50%, 49% are saying no, there will be clarity. We are not going to get confused between Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha. So again, nearly 50% are saying we will not get confused, but there is a sizable number of about 40%, 39% who are saying yes, there will be confusion. So there seems to be some merit on the opposition's concern that bhai, whoever is at the will use this to somewhere confuse the voter, Siddharth. And why? Because you will try and make it a national issue and try and gloss over the local issues and garner up the votes.
Anand, I'll answer this, and I'll also answer the other questions that were
Yeah,
raised by
sure.
my fellow panelists. Point number one, I think, the people of our country should not be considered fools. I think their intelligence should not be questioned. We have seen on multiple occasions, Orissa, for a lot of occasions, on a lot of polls, have voted very differently. They voted differently. The simultaneous elections happened. On one machine, they went and voted for one party. On another machine, they went and voted for another party. So when these examples are there with us, when we have seen that the electorate of our country is very smart and they can do an independent decision making, I think their intelligence should not be questioned. This is point number one. Point number two, my friend Tehseen was saying, and this has become a very, very loosely such terms are being used by the opposition, that the federal structure is being questioned, it's under attack, it's unconstitutional. Keshwananda Bharati's judgment is being cited. But I think the understanding of federal structure should be made before such arguments are made. Now, I am also a practicing lawyer. I know Tehseen is also from the same fraternity. I think, very deeper discussions on such issues should happen, and such terms should not be loosely done. Now, I'll tell you how. The constitutional provisions that have to be amended, which the committee has also suggested, do not call for a ratification. Now, where does the ratification come in? Ratification will only come in when the states will have to dissolve their assemblies. 5 state assembly elections already happen with the Lok Sabha polls. Few state assembly elections happen 6 months later, few happen 6 months earlier. So when you total it up, it's 11 states. Now, for dissolution of assemblies, the ratification is not required. I'm trying to make Tehseen understand this. For dissolution of assemblies, ratification is not required, because the state assembly can very well decide that if they want to dissolve early, and that they can go ahead with. But number one, if the bill has to be passed, the bill has to be passed with a 2/3 majority, which the constitution mandates, by the parliament of this country. When states will have to be included, whatever constitutional provision has to be followed shall be followed. If 50% ratification is also the need of the hour, which the opposition feels, I think will very well be followed. But doesn't make this provision, which is being passed by the parliament, as unconstitutional. It's a very heavy word that you use. And, Sanjeev ji was saying that 100% people have to agree, 100% political parties have to agree. I think that never can be the case. The last time, the 100% all political parties agreed to one bill was the NJAC, which was later on turned down by the Supreme Court. So, this is not the case because the Constitution doesn't say so. If the Constitution had required that all political parties and all MPs had to agree to something, it would have been written that way. 2/3 of the majority has to be attained. If 2/3 majority is attained, this bill has to go through. When the bill has to go through, this will become a reality in our country. Once this becomes reality, the states will have to follow whatever ratification has to happen, or the states will, by themselves decide one case. I think that will be done. It is not attack on the federal structure. I repeat it is not an attack on the federal structure. If it is an attack on the federal structure, I think this was first done by the Congress party, which introduced the first elections, which happened at one time in one place.
I think somewhere.
And lastly,
please.
And Anand, lastly, when Sanjeev ji says that it has to be looking, it has to look fair, and people have to believe it is fair. Today, one nation, one elections are not happening. One nation, one polls are not happening. People are questioning the EVM. The Supreme Court is saying when you win, EVMs are good. When you lose, EVMs are bad. When today this is the situation that we have an opposition which is not ready to take responsibility of the losses, and rather, is finding a scapegoat every time. You cannot mandate and you cannot guarantee that whatever new introductions are made, which are for the betterment of the country, the opposition is going to agree to it happily.
I think somewhere.
I think
what happens?
All these points?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you time. The other thing is that what happens if 2029, it's the INDI alliance that comes back to power. So in 2034, would it then become favorable for one nation, one election? See, there has to be one aspect which our JPC, and when our political parties sit for a JPC, Tehseen and Sanjeev and Siddharth, when they sit together, that there has to be a policy continuity. It cannot be depending upon where you are sitting in Parliament, whether the Treasury benches or in the opposition. So that is something which is important, because this is for the country. Would you not, as a citizen, want our netas to think policy not dependent on polls? Should policy not be independent of polls? And that cannot happen till the time that they see a clear run for the next 4 years or 5 years. without having to worry about the next election. That's the only way there can be thought on policy rather than looking at poll-driven policy. Yes, Tehseen.
Thank you. There are 3 or 4 points. First, Aman, very articulate, one of the best reporters this nation has, said, look, until Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ji, and you made that point, Anand, and Siddharth Bhai made that point, that there was one nation, one poll. Yes. But the basic structure as defined by the Keshavananda Bharati only came into being into 1973. So yes, there was one nation, one poll, but basic structure came into 1973 and they had the various regional parties. Now Siddharth Bhai says, and he's one of the best spokespersons, he says, look, you know what, we're going to take everybody along, but hey, you don't need to ratify, you can just resign, you don't need a permission to resign. Yes, but because Delhi is asking me to resign in my assembly, why should Delhi ask Mumbai to resign in the assembly? You're ignoring that question. That is domination. That's not accepted. Now let's come to the third question. Pallavi said, again, one of the best reporters we have in our country. She says, look, in the finance ministry, in the budget on 1st February, Delhi will lose out. No, Pallavi, and no, Anand. The finance budget has been made a political document. It is only a statement of accounts. So what stops Nirmala Sitharaman ma'am on 2nd February or 8th February or 9th February or 10th February to give an interview to Anand, come on CNN News 18 and say, look, this is what we want to do for Delhi. She refused to do it. Suddenly, 1st February can't be the date because there's Delhi elections. And my last point on money, because nobody countered it with vague statements. So let me just give numbers. Now, this is the numbers from the union government given by Prime Minister Modi's government from 2019 to 2024. Modi ji 2.0 government spent 16,255 crore rupees on the elections, which is an annual expenditure of 3,251 crore rupees. This includes the EVMs, etc., etc., etc. I'm not getting into details. 16,000 crore rupees, that's all that is spent. More money than that is on the PM Kisan Yojana. Sanjeev Bhai, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 60,000 crore rupees. Surely, one second, please allow me to finish. Surely the two cannot be compared as apples and oranges. But may I please ask, have they counted, have they calculated how many more EVMs will be required? How much more manpower will be required in that one time? The cost of that, the expenditure of that? I looked at Ramnath Kovindji's document. None of that has been accounted for except for vague statements. That's the problem that we're getting in.
No, but Tehseen, those are the things that have to be ironed out with the JPC and over the next 9.5 years. That's what needs to be done, because we are building up and we are discussing this to come into play in 2034. That's when, and that calculation would also come only after the census is completed, the delimitation exercise happens.
Why should delimitation happen on
1
census?
minute,
So I lose out.
Please
So
listen.
I lose out.
No. You don't.
Of course I will
no,
lose
that
out.
that's the procedure.
My
You
Maharashtra
have
will lose out.
no. That is the procedure, because that's how the sizes.
So
the
I keep children in the check.
Don't heckle me. No, I didn't.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
So,
I apologize.
So then the size of the Lok Sabha, the size of the Rajya Sabha will increase. The number of seats will increase. 33% reservation for women will come into play across all levels. That's when, after that, how many new polling booths will happen, how many new constituencies will happen. So these are all which will happen, calculated over the next 4-5 years, it will be done. And this 16,000 crore is only the election administration. The cost that each state is incurring because of 2 months of no work done, that cost is that cannot even be calculated. The amount of money that is lost because of policy paralysis, things not moving, that's a huge cost that eventually hurts the country. I have limited. No, I have to limited time. We will take this.
Why doesn't the policy paralysis that Nirmala Sitharaman ji announced this in January, what she wanted to do for Delhi? Why was she paralyzed or her ministry paralyzed then? That's the point now.
See, budget
That's
date
the
is
point,
decided.
buddy.
Budget date is decided. Now she will announce whatever has to be done. Whatever needs to be done for Delhi may be announced on a later date, but it cannot be announced on the day of the budget. That's how it is. That's where it is. Yes, Siddharth, quickly, I have to wind up. 30 seconds.
Yes, just 30 seconds. My friend Tehseen was saying that, before, when Jawaharlal Nehru ji was doing one nation, one elections, it was constitutional because the basic structure of the constitution was introduced in 73. So today he says, although the concept of the basic structure came in 73, so he says it was, I need to ask him, was it violative of the basic structure, what Jawaharlal Nehru was doing?
Okay.
Because the concept came in 73, but he was doing a violation.
Let's just hold that there. Let's just pause it and say that this country has done Vidhan Sabha and Lok Sabha simultaneously. What happened in the past is not within our control. What we do in the future is what we can decide today in the present. And I think as a collective, we must all work in this direction where our netas are forced to think policy and not polls. when a chief minister stands out and says ahead of election Revdi and Revdi pe charcha, and then does that Revdi again ahead of Lok Sabha elections, we have a problem. When a prime minister is going down and on campaign mode for at least 100 days in a year, we have a problem, and we should not have that problem as a country. That's where I'd like to pause for the moment. 9 questions, 4 we have shared, 5 more coming your way. What are the takeaways so far? The survey reveals that the One Nation, One Election plan enjoys strong support overall across states and union territories. That's what our respondents have pointed towards. The second part, there is support for the proposal which is strong in central, east and the northern regions of our country. Another takeaway, importantly, respondents in the south, the west and the northeast are slightly apprehensive. So the naysayers have come from these regions. Strong belief, the next takeaway, strong belief that simultaneous polls will save public money. Now, this seems to be a common understanding across the board. Takeaway 5, respondents say fewer elections equals lesser disruptions to daily life. Well, stay with us through the day on this broadcast, News 18 Pulse Survey on One Nation, One Elections. See you after a short break.
Getting in news now, Trump has said that he would use economic force against Canada. He further said that we don't need anything that Canada has. We have a right not to help Canada with any financial issues. Earlier, Trump said that why are we supporting a country which $200 billion a year, there should be a state. Now, ex-Canadian PM has hit back at Donald Trump's threat to use economic force to absorb Canada into the US. Trudeau earlier said that this isn't a snowball's chance to join the two. We have Akansha joining us on the broadcast. Akansha, very good morning. Tell us about this recent statement coming in from Donald Trump, and what do we make out from this?
Right, Kaveri, a very good morning to all our viewers. We all know that this is not a first thing that Donald Trump talked about having Canada as the 51st state and have Justin Trudeau join in the governor. But this time, he's in the press conference when he made those comments, he's of course been more expansionary in his attack. He's, as you rightly mentioned, he's to several key imports that America does not need from Canada. That also includes the automotive, lumber and dairy sectors. He said that the United States imported $614.3 billion worth of goods from Canada in 2022. And this was, remember, only his second news conference since his election victory in November. And Trump has already reiterated his intent to impose substantial tariffs on Canada and Mexico. That is when he returned to the White House. Earlier also, he had threatened to impose a 25% tariff on all imports from these neighboring nations. But what's very interesting and perhaps of concern for Canada is, of course, how he has been consistently suggesting to annex Canada. And that is why it is a very tackled Justin Trudeau now retorting when he says that there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. Workers and communities in both our countries benefit being the biggest trading and security partner is what he had to say. But many critics are of the view that Donald Trump is perhaps using this as a negotiatory tactic, and this is also a pressure tactic before he takes over, and will use these tariffs and the North America Trade Agreement Treaty to exercise more pressure on Canada. But important to highlight, Kaveri, that this is good news, in that we've already shared how Justin Trudeau sounds extremely rattled by this development. At the same time, the Liberal government is under a lot of pressure. They are being blamed for Donald Trump and the bombastic sort of statements that are coming in from him. Melanie Jolie has also taken to X, where she's saying that President-elect Donald Trump comments show a complete lack of understanding of what makes Canada strong. And our economy strong, our peace are strong, will never back So, look at the timing. At a time when the Liberals in Canada are going through a major political sort of overhaul, they are also standing on very shaky ground where they do not have a leader to sort of project as a front runner after Justin Trudeau steps down. He's already prorogued the House of Commons until March of 2025. So, it's a very, very critical, fragile moment. They are very vulnerable right now, the Liberals. And so I think Donald Trump is also utilizing the timing to attack Canada.
Getting in news now, Trump has said that he would use economic force against Canada. He further said that we don't need anything that Canada has. We have a right not to help Canada.
Hello and welcome. You're watching CNN News 18. I'm Avantika Singh. We're getting in some breaking news. Bobby Chimmanur, who's a prominent businessman and jewellery brand owner in Kerala, is being questioned following a complaint that has been filed by Malayalam actor Honey Rose. In fact, he was taken for questioning following a special investigation team formed by the Kerala police to look into the sexual harassment and obscene remarks complaint. Based on Honey Rose's complaint, a case was registered against Chimmanur under non-bailable sections. So that's the news coming in right now about Bobby Chimmanur, who has been now arrested and taken for further questioning. Neetu joins us for the latest on this. Neetu, but Honey Rose had only put out a post on Facebook accusing an individual of stalking her. She never really named the individual. Then how is it that the needle of suspicion is on this reputed businessman?
Honey Rose has filed a complaint before the Ernakulam Central Police naming this individual.
Okay.
The instances that she faced from last August. So where Honey Rose had had filed this complaint with the police stating that last August she went for an inauguration of this jewellery brand's showroom. That is where she had to face an insult from this person. She says that there were sexually coloured remarks and also unwanted sexual advances. So after that, it was in a public stage itself. She said that after that, she had told the coordinator that they are not interested in further being associated with this brand. She said that in yet another program where she was, this person was also there, and in several TV, in interviews that he gave, especially whether it's in social media, he made sexually colored remarks against her, and this has been continuing, and that is why she is now forced to give this police complaint. The police have registered an FIR, and what we are understanding through police sources is that Bobby Chimmanur has been taken in for questioning. So only after the questioning we'll know what the following procedures will be. In most probability his arrest would be recorded, but only after the questioning the investigation team will decide on what to do next.
Right. Brinda Adike is also joining us right now on the broadcast. Brinda ji, thanks so much for speaking to us. You know, a very shocking case coming in about how Honey Rose, a reputed actor, has filed this case against a noted businessman, Bobby Chimmanur. He's now been taken into custody for a sexual harassment case. In fact, I was just speaking to my colleague Neetu, and she was giving us more details how Honey Rose was continuously harassed by this person who's now in police custody.
So one thing we need to place on record is very often we don't have women coming forward and making complaints because it's always a burden that is placed on the woman for how she's dressed or how she spoke or walked or sat. Now that she's coming forward and she's made this complaint and the police are taking him for questioning, this also shows that reporting makes a difference. And the police taking such complaints seriously and going forward, investigating it, means there is a lot more confidence that can be placed in the police and the investigation that they are doing. I just hope that they are able to go to the bottom of what the entire matter is and place before the courts, if at all there is a case, with the correct information and punishment if that man has spoken in a derogatory manner, has made sexual innuendos, because all of that is against our law.
Yes.
If all that has been done, he should be punished.
Yes. You know, post the Justice Hema committee report, which had which was a bombshell, which had just exposed the exploitation of women in the film industry. Even that, unfortunately, Brinda, hasn't really acted as a deterrent with such sexual harassment cases still coming to the fore.
The Hemavati Commission was almost, out of the ordinary, because we rarely have governments that would actually say, let's constitute something like this and look at the complaints. The fact that a constitution of this committee was done itself is a great boon. That is something there. But what has happened as a result? FIRs have been filed. Nothing has come. There's no logical conclusion that any of these cases have yet arrived at, even though it happened about 5 years ago. So we are still looking at such complaints being treated with kid gloves against the perpetrator. So we do hope that because of the Hemavati Commission, the police is taking cognizance of such complaints and is going ahead and filing FIR and doing the investigation. Because we know what happened in the Me Too campaign. And that did not fare very well. I do hope here we would be able to see a little more justice and some kind of confidence that we can place in state agencies.
All right, Brinda, thank you so much for speaking to CNN News 18. Neetu, coming back to you, now this case has been filed against non-bailable sections. What does that mean for the businessman, and just how long will his questioning go on for?
See, what we understand is that he has been taken into custody from Wayanad. He will be brought to Ernakulam Central Police Station. So that travel itself is going to take about 7 to 8 hours for them to bring him to the Ernakulam Central Railway Station where the case has been registered. That is where the questioning will be going on once he is brought here. Only after that, the police... Only after the questioning, only after the interrogation, the police will go on to the other measures of if they are planning to record the arrest. So this is going to take time, at least this much time it's going to take, because the travel time is also included. So he needs to be brought to Ernakulam Central Police Station for all the procedures in this regard to start.
All right, and Neetu, I just wanted to ask you what exactly has she mentioned in her complaint? I do understand that initially you did mention to us, but on what occasion did the Malayalam actor feel very uncomfortable that prompted her to actually go ahead and file that complaint?
In April last year, she had participated in the inauguration of a branch of this particular jewelry of Bobby Chemanur. So at that venue, she said that Bobby Chemanur made certain statements which were sexually colored remarks, which could be interpreted in a different way. And also at this stage, he came to her and made her wear a necklace showing it to the people. So she says that this was also unwanted sexual advancement. That's how she felt. And it was not just this occasion. Later, when he spoke, when he was giving interviews also, he made certain remarks about her. At a later occasion, she was again invited to be a part of one of the inaugurations, and she had said that she will not be associated with this person because of the way he had behaved. She says that in her complaint to the police, that after this there has been an attack, an organized sort of attack through such kinds of comments against her. So she says that she feels sexually colored remarks, unwanted sexual advancement, and also making such remarks over social media. She had also filed a complaint against people who have actually made comments on her Facebook post also.
Okay.
So in that particular case also, one person was arrested for sexually colored remarks. The complaint was against 30 people. So over a year, she says that she faced this many issues, and that is why she has now decided to come out and file this complaint.
Right, Neetu. Thank you so much for joining us and getting us the latest updates on this big story coming in from Kerala. Shifting focus now, amid the row over a memorial for the former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, the union government has now given its nod for a memorial dedicated to the former president, the late Pranab Mukherjee, also a very senior Congress member. Pranab Mukherjee passed away in August 2020. The centre has decided to build the memorial at a designated site within the Rashtriya Smriti complex, which is also part of the Rajghat. Now, Sharmishta Mukherjee, daughter of Pranab Mukherjee, has expressed her thanks and gratitude to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and has said that the decision was completely unexpected. This latest development comes amid Pranab Mukherjee's daughter slamming the Congress party for politicizing Dr. Manmohan Singh's memorial, while she even questioned the duplicity of the grand old party. Now, the Congress leader, Kunwar Danish Ali, has said that this move by the government is now being seen as a gift to Pranab Mukherjee for his affinity towards the RSS. Let me go straight across now to CNN News 18's Pallavi Ghosh for more on this. Pallavi, amid the Dr. Manmohan Singh row, the centre finally earmarking a site for Pranab Mukherjee's memorial. How is the family reacting to this news?
I'm going to go across to a member of the Pranab Mukherjee family. Sharmishta Mukherjee now joins us live. Thank you very much, Sharmishta, as always, for speaking to CNN News 18. When the Prime Minister's office called you and invited you and you were told that a memorial would be built up in memory of your Baba, what was your first thought? What is it that you felt at that point of time?
Of course, I felt extremely happy. I felt real gratitude towards the Prime Minister. But to be very honest, the first I received a letter from the Urban Development Ministry on 1st January, and that was the official letter. And then I requested for an appointment with Honorable Prime Minister, and then I got the appointment yesterday, and I went and met him and expressed my gratitude and thanks. And, one thing, Pallavi, I was most touched about, my father always used to say that state honors, which also includes state memorial, it can't ever be demanded or asked for. That was his thought. I mean, he's always said it should be offered. So as a family, we never made any kind of demand, or we never wrote to PMO for creation of his memorial. So it was a decision, it was an initiative taken by the government of India under the leadership of Shri Narendra Modi ji. Modi ji thought about it himself. So that is something I find it immensely touching. Immensely, and as in my tweet also, I expressed my gratitude. So when I went to meet him yesterday, and then I was told that I can now announce it, because between 1st to 7th I didn't even declare it to my family. I didn't even tell anybody to my family, because my father always believed in protocol, and when he received his Bharat Ratna, he didn't even tell me. I came to know about it from a journalist, and then when I charged him that why he didn't tell me, he said, no, that is the protocol. You have to wait for the official announcement. So when I was only given a go-ahead by PMO to announce it, I did that.
Okay, Sharmishta, now I'm waiting an official reaction to come in from the Congress, but there are responses coming in from the party. And I'm not very surprised by the response, but they are saying that he was an RSS agent. He went to the RSS headquarters to Nagpur, and that's the reason the BJP and the Prime Minister has awarded him by giving the memorial, and it's a political point. Your response to that?
I think Congress should have, or definitely could have, come out with something better. Firstly, in that thing, the question goes to them, that if Pranab Mukherjee was an RSS agent, why did he was allowed to be a stalwart leader of Congress for 45 years? Our Congress High Command, starting from Indira Gandhi to Sonia Gandhi ji, are such fools that in 45 years they could not make out that Pranab Mukherjee is an RSS agent. Secondly, by their definition, of course, my father went to RSS headquarters in his post-presidential years. He was alive then. My father passed away 4 years back. So if this memorial is linked to his RSS visit, why would the government wait for 4 years? So it's something very, wrapped up about their argument, about their logic. And to be very honest, I mean, as a grand old party, I thought that they could have come out with something better. Like why say such stupid things that, because he went to RSS, in that case, why not? Why in that case, why not declare a memorial for him immediately after his passing away? So the answer for this,
I was
yesterday,
going to come
I mean,
to this question later.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the answer for this is plain and simple, and which was extremely gracious of Prime Minister Modi, who told me yesterday that, I should have done it before. I should have. So maybe, Doctor, when this whole issue about the memorial of Dr. Manmohan Singh ji came up, and so maybe I thought that is the time the thought triggered in in Prime Minister Modi's mind कि प्रणब दा के लिए भी ये करना चाहिए. और ये one thing, Pallavi, I have seen this. There was a genuine bond between my father and Prime Minister.
Yes.
Something beyond politics. It was based on genuine respect. And also, the family never wrote a letter or never asked for a memorial. So our Prime Minister has got millions of things to do. So, so if it skipped his mind, there is no harm in that. So the moment he thought about it, he took the action, he took the initiative, and that is where we are. And people, if we are saying that, he is doing politics, I mean, I would say that, if this is politics, then politics should be done in such a gracious, graceful manner. I mean, so this is the way then politics should be done. And Congress, it's the saddest part of the grand old party. If that is the Congress's official reaction, it showed the sorry state of affairs within Congress, that instead of welcoming a memorial for not only, one of their most stalwart leaders for 45 years, but also President of India, instead of welcoming it, if they are, giving this kind of very strange argument, they are also insulting the institution of the President of India. Don't they have any respect for anybody? Forget about individuals. Don't they have any respect for any institutions?
Do you think the Congress party, Sharmisha, do you think the Congress should have thought for a memorial for him? They didn't think of a Bharat Ratna for him. They didn't think of a memorial for him. And they're making a hue and cry about Dr. Manmohan Singh's memorial. Do you think the Congress should have given a memorial and a Bharat Ratna to your father?
Congress did not. To be fair to Congress, Congress did bestow on him Padma Vibhushan when he was alive. But Congress did not even give a Bharat Ratna to Dr. Manmohan Singh. And from my father's diary, I came to know 30. There is an entry in his diary which says that, he thought of giving Bharat Ratna to Dr. Manmohan Singh due to his stellar achievements. And he talked to the then cabinet secretary and directed him to talk to Pulak Chatterjee, a very senior bureaucrat who was close to Sonia Gandhi ji. So he asked the cabinet secretary to talk to Pulak Chatterjee to ascertain Sonia Gandhi ji's views on this, on conferring Bharat Ratna to Dr. Manmohan Singh. But there was only one entry, and after that, there was no further reference. So to be very honest, I do not know what transpired, why this was not taken up any further. I don't have any knowledge of it. Perhaps Congress or the Gandhis will be able to answer this. Whether Pulak Chatterjee did talk to Sonia Gandhi ji, what was Sonia Gandhi ji's response, that I am not aware of. But yes, this much I know, that Pranab Mukherjee wanted to confer Bharat Ratna to Dr. Manmohan Singh, and but somehow that did not happen.
Okay, I'm going to let you go, but one quick last question, a quick reply. Did your father ever be regretful of the fact that he went to the RSS headquarters? Did he not understand why the Congress was making an issue about it? Anything he said to you ever?
Of course, that time I was also in Congress, and I myself was very angry with him for going to RSS, and I was continuously badgering him, continuously, fighting with him. So he kept, as you know, my father, he kept a stoic silence, did not say anything. Only one day he got very irritated with me, and he said that I mean, that time there was this logic that, he was giving legitimacy to RSS. So he said, who am I to give legitimacy to RSS? It is the people of India who has given legitimacy to RSS by choosing an RSS pracharak with a huge mandate. And, if Congress or if you choose to ignore that fact, you are doing it at your own peril. And of course, at that time, I was very angry with my father and I also tweeted against him. But later on, I believed that my father believed in dialogue. He believed that dialogue across political spectrum, across different ideological, different ideologies is the main strength and main pillar of democracy. So and that is also the used to be the strength, the ideology of Congress. So, and from RSS platform, he used the RSS platform.
All right, we seem to have lost on that red link, but we just heard what Sharmishta Mukherjee had to say exclusively to CNN News 18 in her first response after the Prime Minister and the central government has announced a memorial for her late father, the former President of India, Pranab Mukherjee.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this special broadcast. The first meeting of the Joint Parliamentary Committee on One Nation, One Election is currently underway in the Parliament complex. Remember, the motion on forming this panel, and it is a big one. The Joint Parliamentary Committee has 39 members to ensure the representation of maximum political parties and states. The panel is headed by former Law Minister P.P. Chaudhary. We in fact spoke to him. I'll play out that interview in a moment. But first, News 18 Pulse survey is decoding the mood of the country on One Nation, One Election. We're going to take you through some of the key responses that majority of residents of India, citizens of India have given in this poll. More than 4,500 responses to the News 18 Pulse on One Nation, One Election proposal. And the big headline is that there is overall support, majority support in the News 18 Pulse on One Nation, One Election. Across states, more than 80% of the respondents, and like I said, more than 4,500 respondents took part in this survey. More than 80% of them have backed, in principle, the idea of One Nation, One Poll. Support for this idea is particularly strong in northern India, in central India, and in eastern India. It is relatively lower in the south, in the west, and in the northeast. So let's take you through the big findings of the News 18 Pulse One Nation, One Election survey. The big question that we asked some of our respondents: will the One Nation, One Election help decide on better policy initiatives? Will One Nation, One Election help the government come out with a better policy direction and a better policy decisions? 71% said that yes, this will lead to better policy decisions because you're not having election after election every 6 months, whether it is to state legislatures or the general election. Another 18% said that no, this will make no difference whatsoever to policy decisions that the government of India has to take. And 11% of our respondents were unsure whether or not there will be any major change as far as One Nation, One Election and helping policy decisions are concerned. Let's now move on to the other big findings of the One Nation, One Election News 18 Pulse. The other big finding, the big question that we asked our survey respondents: do you support simultaneous polls for Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha? Staggering 4/5 of our 4,500 plus respondents, 80% of them said that yes, they will support the idea of simultaneous elections for the Lok Sabha, the House of the People, and also for various legislatures. 16% saying no, 4% can't say or unsure. The other big finding from the News 18 Pulse One Nation, One Election survey: do you believe that simultaneous polls will save public money? Remember, the BJP, the Prime Minister, have been making this argument that having elections every 6 months is a drain on the exchequer. The Election Commission's annual budget is somewhere around 3,500 to 4,000 crores. 81% saying that yes, this will save public money. 13% saying no, and 6% saying can't say. So 4/5 of our respondents agree with the idea of one nation, one poll and also agree that this will help save public money. Let's go to the next finding. In the News 18 Pulse, One Nation, One Election survey. Will One Nation, One Election reduce disruptions? Whether it is traffic jams, school closures. Remember, a bulk of the polling stations, for example, when the general election happened, there were over 10 lakh polling stations. A large majority of them are schools, and schools have to be shut down if you have to conduct polls. So people were asked, will it reduce the disruption caused by the shutdown of schools and other public places that are required for the conduct of elections? 81% saying yes, it will reduce the disruption, 13% saying no, and 6% saying not sure. And one final finding that we have from the News 18 One Nation, One Election survey that we conducted over a period of 3 weeks across all regions of the country. Will voters get confused while picking a Lok Sabha candidate and an assembly candidate at the same time? Here, 39% said that yes, they could likely get confused. 49% said no, there is no chance of them getting confused. So this one question, there seems to be a bit of uncertainty, almost 40% saying they could be confused if they have to choose two sets of candidates, one for the Vidhan Sabha, one for the Lok Sabha. Let me first go across to our Aman is joining us, our political editor. Pallavi Ghosh, senior editor, is also joining us. Aman, so on the day that the first meeting of the Joint Parliamentary Committee is happening right now in the Parliament complex, we have the details and the survey results from the News 18 Pulse One Nation, One Election. There seems to be overwhelming support for the idea of one nation, one election. And yet, why are opposition parties saying that this is anti-democratic, anti-federal, and this will not fly?
Well, Zaka, see, obviously an overwhelming mandate is also because, larger issues, you see, till 1967, we had one nation, one election in this country under the reign of the Congress. The Congress today is saying that it's anti-federal or anti-constitutional is rather ironic. That said, look at Delhi. Delhi will going to be under Model Code of Conduct for the next 1 month. It was under Model Code of Conduct for last year for almost 2 months during the Lok Sabha elections. So this repeated disruption to developmental work, to all kinds of activities come to an halt when the elections are held all over the time, all over the year. So that is the main reason for the government to bring in one nation, one election, to cut down the time, to cut down the money spent. And people are intelligent enough. We've seen that in Delhi, people vote for the Lok Sabha for Mr. Modi, in the assembly election for Mr. Kejriwal. We've seen that in Odisha, we've seen that in Andhra Pradesh. But the one question, Zaka, where there's 39% people are saying people will get confused. That is the reason that mainly the opposition parties, especially the regional parties, feel that they will be at a big disadvantage. For example, a Samajwadi party, if it has to fight 402 assembly constituencies and 80 Lok Sabha constituencies together, does it have a leader like Mr. Modi who has a pan-India presence? Does it have the cadre? Does it have those resources? So, the regional parties feel that BJP, a party like BJP with a pan-India, very popular leader, has resources, has the cadre, even the Congress for that matter, have an inherent advantage in a one nation, one election. Regional party like Samajwadi Party, RJD, YSRCP, BJD, all these parties fear that in one nation, one election, they stand to lose out, they will become irrelevant over time, and people may just vote for the big national leader even in the state. So I think that is the big dichotomy here, and the government will have a hard time convincing the opposition parties on this because they don't have the numbers in the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. We saw that during the voting as well. This is not the 370 bill in which parties will vote across the across the party lines and vote in the name of something like national interest. What we saw in 370, the government could get the abrogation of 370 passed. This bill is different. With the opposition, the whole INDI camp seems to be united against one nation, one election.
All right. Before we go to Pallavi, we're getting a piece of breaking news on this JPC meeting that is happening right now on one nation, one election. Remember, we're getting this by way of sources from inside the meeting. Top political sources of the members who are attending this meeting. One of them has told our reporters that TMC's Kalyan Banerjee, he has questioned the government over the logic of introducing the one nation, one election proposal. He has said that while the government is citing the justification of cutting down on expenses and saying that one nation, one election will cut down on expenses in a substantial way, Mr. Banerjee has asked whether the government considers curtailing of expenses more important or whether the exercise of democratic right of the people to vote is more important. Payal has more details. So clearly, the opposition is framing this as, there can't be a price tag put on democracy. That the democratic right to vote is a fundamental right. It is a universal franchise guaranteed to us by the Constitution, by the founding fathers of this republic, and you cannot put a price tag on it. But Payal, the results of the News18 Pulse, One Nation, One Election survey seems to suggest that 80% of the public seems to be supportive of this idea.
That's the reason, Zaka, when the Prime Minister spoke to the cabinet, he said people need to be taken into confidence because eventually the biggest stakeholder in this whole nation are the voters, and they are, of course, the people themselves. Having said that, various political leaders have spoken so far, whether it's Dharmendra Yadav from the Samajwadi Party, Manish Tiwari from the Congress Party. They've opposed the bill, essentially saying that this is against the federal structure, this is against the principles of the Constitution as well. But Kalyan Banerjee has made a very important point. He says that people have given the mandate to elect a representative for 5 years. What gives the government the right to bring in a bill which is going to curtail the term of their tenure by, say, 2 or 3 years, depending on when this elections really take place? So is the curtailing of expenses more important than curtailing the power of the people to vote a representative? That's the argument that Kalyan Banerjee seems to have made, and he's sought a response from the Ministry of Law and Justice. Remember, the officials of the Ministry of Law and Justice have deposed before the panel today. The Law Secretary, Mr. Mani himself, is there in the presence of the committee as well. Various members are speaking, but so far Basuri Swaraj, who's spoken on behalf of the BJP, has in fact supported the legislation, obviously by saying that this is a reform legislation which is going to overhaul the country's election process. But opposition parties have spoken so far. Very interesting, Zaka, today will be to see what the debutant MP in this panel, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, what does she say and how does she present the argument on behalf of the Congress party? That remains a big focus as well. But for now, Kalyan Banerjee asked a very important question, saying that every country is guaranteed by its constitution that they will be given a right to vote. Who gives the government the right to, in fact, curtail that right? That's the question that is being asked.
I'm going to go across to Pallavi Ghosh as well. We have from the BJP, Pradeep Bhandari is joining us. We have a Congress representative also joining us here on the broadcast. So we'll go to the political spokespersons in just one second. But Pallavi, this whole logic that the Congress and the opposition is citing, that it's anti-federal, it's anti-constitutional. What is the Congress's justification that the first 3 general elections that this country saw from 52 to 67 were all one nation, one election? They were all simultaneous polls.
But the Congress says that things changed after that. There were political parties, there were governments which were toppled, or the term could not be synchronized. And therefore, we have to keep abreast with the changing times. And that's no logic enough why we should go back to one nation, one poll. Just to reply very quickly to their criticism, the examples of Odisha are repeatedly thrown up. I mean, if people are smart enough to know who they really want to vote for at the Lok Sabha level and at the state level, and that's exactly what the supporters of ONOE are pointing out, that if people don't underestimate the might of a voter, don't take them to be fools. Ye public hai, ye sab janti hai, and therefore when they go to a ballot box or to a polling booth, they know that we want to vote for this political party or this person as far as our nation or local national level is concerned. But as far as governing on a day-to-day state level, this is the person we need to vote for, as Odisha, Andhra Pradesh and all of them bear it out. So there is no substance to a criticism which is coming in from the Congress. That is what the BJP and the central government is saying.
Okay, thank you both Aman and Pallavi. I want to go across to Pradeep Bhandari, and Pooja Tripathi of the Congress is also joining us. Pradeep Bhandari, Kalyan Banerjee has asked a pertinent question. Is cost to the exchequer more important, or is the fundamental right to vote more important? The News18 Pulse, One Nation, One Election survey, in which we had more than 4,500 respondents across 15 states of the country, seemed to suggest at least 80% of the survey respondents are saying that this is an idea that they are supportive of and that this will save cost. But the opposition is asking, is cost more important than democracy?
Well, Zaka, first of all, I congratulate your team for such an exhaustive survey. Well, we want to protect the democracy and we want to protect the original essence of the Indian Constitution. This is why we are implementing the vision of the Indian Constitution makers and the Indian Constituent Assembly, which had Babasaheb Bhimrao Ambedkar, which had Jawaharlal Nehru, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee and others, which went for one nation, one election. I do not understand this logic when the democracy was so nascent, when India became independent. If our constituent makers at that time, in such a nascent stage of our democracy, could have one nation, one election, and that did not took away the fundamental rights, how can it take away the fundamental rights after more than 70 years of independence when our democracy has become so mature? So I do believe like abrogation of Article 370 was temporary in nature. The original essence of the Indian Constitution, the basic structure of it was to have one nation, one election. So we are just not implementing one nation, one election for mere cost. We are implementing it to originally implement the essence of the Indian Constitution.
So, Pooja Tripathi, one fundamental question that the government is asking is, how can the Congress justify not having one nation, one election when under Pandit Nehru, when our country became a republic, when we had the first set of elections, the first 3 elections were all simultaneous elections. They were all one nation, one election. And this idea that somehow, it will eat up the opposition parties, it will eat up the regional parties, that just does not bear itself out. There is no evidence to show that if you have national and regional elections at the same time, that somehow regional parties will collapse. I mean, even now in the last general election that happened 6 months ago, you had Odisha, which voted for one party regional, one party national. You had Andhra Pradesh voted for one party regional, one party national. There is enough evidence to show that when there are simultaneous elections, voters are smart enough to decide who they think is better for national and who they think is better for regional. You have to unmute, Pooja Tripathi. You're on mute, please.
On the contrary, Zakka, the evidence shows that whenever simultaneous elections happen, there's a coattail effect. The stronger candidate from a stronger party attracts the voters for his same party. This is a coattail effect, and there has been CSDS survey also where 37 simultaneous elections led to the party with having the government and center having advantage. I know when this argument is being thrown up that in 1951 during Pandit Nehru's tenure, the elections were happening simultaneously. I think it's a very flawed and a very, very fallacious argument. In 1953 parties with 14 parties having a national stature, and there were no regional parties. But now we have, in 2024 elections, we went for 674 parties. Diversity is the beauty of democracy. Diversity throws out regional aspirations. You just gave example of Odisha. This elected both Bharatiya Janata Party in central and state. So I am saying whenever this elections happen, simultaneous elections happen, the whole noise of national elections drown out regional aspirations. The Adivasis of Jharkhand, the people of Delhi, and I think the people of Tamil Nadu from southern states or in northeastern states need their regional aspirations.
So Pradeep, that is a point of concern in the survey finding also, that in southern India, in western India and in northeastern India, there isn't as much support for the idea of one nation, one poll as compared to north, central and east India.
No, Zakka,
Pradeep. That question was to Pradeep, yeah.
Well, Zaka, just to illustrate a simple example, in Maharashtra assembly elections, we won with more than 200 seats. Whereas during the same time, the Nanded bypoll happened and the Nanded bypoll did not go in our favor. So my question and argument here and proposition here forward is that in a wave election where we as the Bharatiya Janata Party won with a sweeping mandate of more than 200 seats, during the same time in the same state a bypoll we do not win, I believe that we are disrespecting the wisdom of the voter by thinking that the voter is foolish enough, childish enough that the voter will not understand. And we have seen examples in Andhra Pradesh to Odisha where neither of the national parties have been dominant parties in the last 10 to 15 years, where the election has not gone exactly the similar way in the Lok Sabha and the assembly. So I do believe that the Indian voter, which has protected the democracy, whether it is in 1950s or now, will protect the Indian democracy even if there is a simultaneous election.
So Pooja Tripathi, final word before I wrap up. You yourself said, I mean, look at the political spectrum in the country right now. DMK, TDP, JMM, Samajwadi Party, NCP. I mean, there's a plethora of regional parties. You said 22, if I'm not mistaken, the figure of the regional parties who have a presence in parliament. What then is this fear that regional parties will be wiped out, that federal structure will be wiped out if you have simultaneous elections? Since 2014, since Mr. Modi came to power, since the BJP came to power, DMK has won in Tamil Nadu, CPM has won in Kerala, TDP has won in Andhra Pradesh, BRS won in Telangana. Mamata Banerjee won huge in Bengal, not once but twice. So what is this fear?
What is this fear is we are asking. We claim of, we not just claim, we We are proud to be the largest democracy, and this hollowed argument that it will save money is just 0.009% of Indian government budget. 60 rupees per voter. We can't spend that much on elections. And what does democracy ensures us? Democracy, the biggest power that Constitution gave it to Pradeep, to you, to me, and to somebody sitting in Bihar and Northeast is universal adult franchise. The when elections happen is just because of elections that Bharatiya Janata Party has to give cylinders for 500 in Holi and Diwali and Uttar Pradesh, and in Holi and Diwali.
Okay, that's a different debate. That's a different can of worms. Anyway, thank you very much, Pradeep Bhandari, Pooja Tripathi, for joining us. This is going to be a top focus for us through the course of our evening coverage as well. We will reveal more answers from the News 18 Pulse One Nation, One Election survey. The headline, of course, is that 80% of the respondents across the country are supportive of the idea of one nation, one election. We spoke to P.P. Chaudhary, former law minister, who's now the head of the Joint Parliamentary Committee that is sitting right now. It's the first meeting of the JPC that is happening right now in the Parliament complex. Just before that meeting began, he spoke to Payal Mehta. This is an excerpt from that. But stick around to CNN News 18 for continued coverage on the News 18 Pulse One Nation, One Election survey.
पीपी सर, बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट मीटिंग है आज, और आप किस तरह से देखते हैं, क्योंकि प्रधानमंत्री का ये मानना है कि ये पूरे कंसेंसस के साथ इस बिल को आगे बढ़ाना है।
देखिए, जब ये पार्लियामेंट में बिल आया, उसमें हमारे गृह मंत्री जी ने फ्लोर ऑफ द हाउस और बिल्कुल माना उन्होंने कि सरकार का मानना है, प्रधानमंत्री जी का मानना है कि इसमें एक वाइडर कंसल्टेशन हो, सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स को सुना जाए और उसके साथ साथ सभी मेंबर का एक कंसेंसस हो, अपनी मेरिट पे डिसाइड हो और हम अनबायस्ड माइंड से काम करेंगे। और मेरा प्रयास ये रहेगा कि सब जो है हम कमेटी में एक कंसेंसस सभी लोगों का साथ एज फार एज पॉसिबल हम कंसेंसस एक अराइव करें, क्योंकि ये बहुत बड़ा इलेक्शन रिफॉर्म है। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी का जो विजन है, ये देश का जो खर्चा बचाने का, मैन पावर जो खराब हो रहा है, जीडीपी का जो नुकसान हो रहा है, तो इसीलिए मेरा मानना है कि मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि सभी मेंबर मिलकर के हम अनबायस्ड तरीके से और वी विल डिसाइड एंड वी विल मेक द रिकमेंडेशन ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ इट्स ओन मेरिट।
आज पहली मीटिंग है सर, आज क्या होगा? आज कोई ब्रीफिंग होगी या मेंबर्स बात कर पाएंगे? क्या होगा आज?
देखिए, आज तो इनिशियल इंट्रोडक्शन है, ब्रीफिंग है, लॉ मिनिस्ट्री ब्रीफिंग करेंगे और उसके बाद में मेंबर से हम डिस्कस करेंगे कि आगे हम कैसे प्रोसीड करना, क्योंकि मैं कभी ये नहीं चाहूँगा कि इसको मैं किसी तरह से ऐसा महसूस नहीं हो कि बुलडोज कर रहा हूँ। हम सभी मेंबर्स की कंसेंसस लेंगे, क्योंकि जितना मुझे इनपुट मिलेगा, जितना मैं सभी लोगों से राय लूँगा, हमारे 30 मेरे समेत 39 हैं, हम 38 मेंबर से सभी से हम राय लेंगे और सभी से सलाह मशवरा करके हम आगे बढ़ेंगे नेशनल इंटरेस्ट में।
Getting in news now, Trump has said that he would use economic force against Canada. He further said that we don't need anything that Canada has. We have a right not to help Canada with any financial issues. Earlier, Trump said that why are we supporting a country which $200 billion a year, there should be a state. Now, ex-Canadian PM has hit back at Donald Trump's threat to use economic force to absorb Canada into the US. Trudeau earlier said that this isn't a snowball's chance to join the two. We have Akansha joining us on the broadcast. Akansha, very good morning. Tell us about this recent statement coming in from Donald Trump, and what do we make out from this?
Right, Kaveri, a very good morning to all our viewers. Now, we all know that this is not a first thing that Donald Trump talked about having Canada as the 51st state and have Justin Trudeau join in the governor. But this time, he's in the press conference when he made those comments, he's of course been more expansionary in his attack. He's, as you rightly mentioned, he's to several key imports that America does not need from Canada. That also includes the automotive, lumber and dairy sectors. He said that the United States imported 614.3 billion worth of goods from Canada in 2022. And this was, remember, only his second news conference since his election victory in November. And Trump has already reiterated his intent to impose substantial tariffs on Canada and Mexico. That is when he returned to the White House. Earlier also, he had threatened to impose a 25% tariff on all imports from these neighboring nations. But what's very interesting and perhaps of concern for Canada is, of course, how he has been consistently suggesting to annex Canada. And that is why it is a very tackled Justin Trudeau now retorting when he says that there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. Workers and communities in both our countries benefit from being the biggest trading and security partner is what he had to say. But many critics are of the view that Donald Trump is perhaps using this as a negotiatory tactic, and this is also a pressure tactic before he takes over, and will use these tariffs and the North America Trade Agreement Treaty to exercise more pressure on Canada. But important to highlight, Kaveri, that this is good news, in that we've already shared how Justin Trudeau sounds extremely rattled by this development. At the same time, the Liberal government is under a lot of pressure. They are being blamed for Donald Trump and, the bombastic sort of statements that are coming in from him. Melanie Jolie has also taken to X, where she's saying that President-elect Donald Trump comments show a complete lack of understanding of what makes Canada strong. And our economy is strong, our people are strong, will never back. So, look at the timing. At a time when the Liberals in Canada are going through a major political sort of overhaul, they are also standing on very shaky ground where they do not have a leader to sort of project as a front runner after Justin Trudeau steps down. He's already prorogued the House of Commons until March of 2025. So, it's a very, very critical, fragile moment. They are very vulnerable right now, the Liberals. And so I think Donald Trump is also utilizing the timing to attack Canada.
Getting in news now, Trump has said that he would use economic force against Canada. He further said that we don't need anything that Canada has. We have a right not to help Canada with any financial issues. Earlier, Trump said that why are we supporting a country which $200 billion a year, there should be a state. Now, ex-Canadian PM has hit back at Donald Trump's threat to use economic force to absorb Canada into the US. Trudeau earlier said that this isn't a snowball's chance to join the two. We have Akansha joining us on the broadcast. Akansha, very good morning. Tell us about this recent statement coming in from Donald Trump, and what do we make out from this?
Right, Kaveri, very good morning to all our viewers. Now, we all know that this is not a first time that Donald Trump talked about having Canada as the 51st state and have Justin Trudeau join in the governor. But this time, he's in the press conference when he made those comments, he's of course been more expansionary.
Welcome back. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Griha Atul. We are now getting in some breaking news from the state of Tamil Nadu, where we are learning that the Chief Minister of the state, Mr. M.K. Stalin, has made a statement on the Anna University sexual assault case. M.K. Stalin has said that the action will be taken no matter who the person is or who the accused is. He's further said that it's not right for the opposition parties to question women's safety, adding that a charge sheet will be filed within 60 days and action will be taken to get the maximum punishment for the culprit through a special court trial. And if the opposition really has evidence, then they must share it with the investigation team and not engage in cheap activities for vain publicity in the case that's related to a student. My colleague Pranab Mukherjee is joining us with all the details on this particular statement of the Chief Minister's. Pranab, while the Chief Minister in fact promises action, he's also using very, very strong words against the opposition, and it's a stinging criticism about politicizing this particular case, he says.
Absolutely. While M.K. Stalin was speaking on the Anna University sexual assault case, he said that what happened to a student at the university is cruel, and that stringent punishment will be given to the accused. However, he says that the opposition party is not speaking on the real issue and is only trying to politicize this. And also says if the opposition is saying who is that sir who's involved, why don't they submit evidence and give it to the SIT team that's currently probing the case? Why are they politicizing it? If they have evidence, why not submit the evidence instead of politicizing the issue? And says that yes, this incident took place, but that does not mean the entire women's fraternity in Tamil Nadu is unsafe. The opposition is these allegations only for political gain, is what Chief Minister N.K. Stalin had said in the assembly. However, after Chief Minister's speech, the AIADMK legislative members staged a walkout and protested outside the assembly, demanding action against the ruling government and those who are linked to this Anna University case, saying there is more truth that is yet to come out. That's the stance that the opposition is taking. And they also staged protest condemning Chief Minister M.K. Stalin's speech in the assembly.
Right. Poonima, thank you so much for all of those details there. So finally, a reaction by the State Chief Minister, Mr. M.K. Stalin, on the Anna University sexual assault case. With that, we are shifting our focus. This is a major overhaul that we're talking about, and as the University Grants Commission has now unveiled new regulations with regard to the process of appointment of leaders in higher education. Remember, this is currently in the draft stage. The revised rules provide state governors with increased authority in the selection process of the vice-chancellors and, for the first time, allow industry experts and public sectoral veterans to be considered for this role as well. Remember, this marks a departure from the long-standing practice of exclusively appointing academicians for the position. And according to the government sources, if approved without any changes, the new regulations will give chancellors greater control over the selection of vice-chancellors, and this will likely have a significant ramification for opposition-ruled states such as Tamil Nadu, West Bengal and Kerala, where the government and the governor, who serves as the chancellor of the state universities, are currently locked in disputes over the process of appointing top academic positions. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has opposed the move and said that Tamil Nadu would fight it legally and politically. DMK has also raised a series of attacks against the proposed regulations, accusing the central government of overreach and undermining the autonomy of state universities.
Now the University Grant Commission issued a draft circular that is making amendments in the existing circular to select the procedure to select the vice chancellors in the universities. Unfortunately, this draft circular and this amendment will lead to a political appointment of the vice chancellors. All these governors, those who are not having any knowledge about the academic background, will appoint their own vice chancellors, political motivated vice chancellors. That will affect the autonomy of the higher education, autonomy of the university also.
देखिए, एक बार फिर से यूजीसी ने ये साबित कर दिया है कि यूनिवर्सिटी ग्रांट्स कमीशन इनका नाम है, लेकिन इनको यूनिवर्सिटी की कोई समझ नहीं है। यूनिवर्सिटी एक
All right, we have word in from Kerala now. We are getting in a CPM statement on this UGC row. The statement has called this particular move a direct assault on the rights of states on the question of selecting vice-chancellors in state-run universities. The guideline, they say, gives the governor cum the chancellor the power to appoint the 3-member selection committee in which the chancellor's nominee will also be the chairperson. The statement also reads that this is happening in the backdrop of governors acting arbitrarily in appointing vice-chancellors in some opposition-ruled states. The state government will have no say in who is being appointed in the selection committee. My colleague Sharon Elizabeth has all the details about this latest statement as well, and on this particular story that she's been following from the very onset. Sharon, now a CPM statement opposing this particular regulation, at least the draft of it.
That's right, Griha, and a very crucial statement that is coming in from the CPIM, considering how they have a government in Kerala, and Kerala and Tamil Nadu are a few of those states who are in loggerheads heads with the governor of the state regarding the appointment of the vice chancellors in the university. Now, when we talk about Tamil Nadu, remember, there is already an issue going on over the sexual harassment case in the Anna University, where the vice chancellor for about 4 to 6 months has not yet been appointed. And that is because the governor has not given a green signal over the appointment of the vice chancellor. Similarly, in Kerala as well, there are many universities where the vice chancellor appointment is still not made. And now with the UGC regulation, this is only going to escalate the war of words between the non-BJP states and with the governor and the BJP government, because like the statement that is coming in from the CPIM also says that as far as this is an assault on the rights of the state on the question of selecting vice chancellor in the states and universities, and the guideline gives power to the governor and takes away the power of the state government is the big allegation that is coming in at this point.
Right, Sharon, thank you so much for that. In fact, let's take a look at some of the other reactions that have come about on the story.
Outrageous move. The country needs more federalism. India is about 140 crore people. It's a continent in itself. You can't rule the country from Delhi. So the DMK since its inception has been very clear that we need more federalism, states need more autonomy. So only when the individual states will grow, only then the country can grow. For the individual states to grow, the state should be given autonomy. So how can an appointee, appointed by Delhi, which is the governor, make decisions on behalf of the state governments? State government is elected by the people. So when state government is appointing a vice chancellor, it is the voice of the Tamil Nadu people, it is the opinion of Tamil Nadu people. Governor has nothing to do with the people. So this is travesty to democracy, point one. And point two, it's anti-federal and anti-democratic.
Let's now shift focus. For the Delhi Assembly elections, AIMIM has now nominated another Delhi riots accused. After fielding Tahir Hussain as its candidate from the Mustafabad Assembly constituency, Owaisi has now fielded Shafur Rahman Khan as its candidate from Okhla Assembly constituency. Shafur Rahman Khan is currently in jail on charges related to the Delhi rioting. He also allegedly played a key role in the anti-CAA movement at Jamia Millia Islamia while he was the president of the Jamia Alumni Association between 2019 and 2020. In fact, Shafur is fielded against Aam Aadmi Party's candidate and incumbent MLA Amanatullah Khan. Rahman is the second accused, remember, in the 2020 Delhi riots case who has been given a party ticket from the AIMIM in the national capital. Remember, Delhi police currently has opposed the bail plea of several accused in the Delhi riots case before the Delhi High Court. In fact, the Delhi police have said in that appeal before the court that the violence was a result of a clinical, pathological mindset planned with diabolical intention and ruthless intensity. 2020 riots, remember, left 53 people dead, over 540 injured, over 208 police officers who were also injured in the rioting. AIMIM's decision of fielding riot accused in the poll fray has now drawn strong criticism for Owaisi's party.
चुनाव में कांग्रेस और एमआईएम के बीच में एक प्रतिस्पर्धा है, कंपटीशन है कि कौन बड़ा भाईजान बन सकता है दंगाइयों का। तो इसीलिए कांग्रेस बोलती है मैं इशरत जहां को टिकट दूंगी, वही इशरत जहां जो मास्टरमाइंड है दिल्ली दंगों की। तो एमआईएम बोलती है कि नहीं, मैं कैसे पीछे रह जाऊं। ताहिर हुसैन, अंकित शर्मा के हत्यारे को, दिल्ली दंगों के मास्टरमाइंड को जो जेल में है उसको टिकट देती है। इनको केवल दंगाइयों के भाईजान बनना है क्योंकि वोट बैंक की दुकान चलानी है। ये मोहब्बत की दुकान नहीं है, नफरत के भाईजान है, नफरत का व्यापार करते हैं, दंगाइयों के संरक्षण में खड़े हो जाते हैं। और आज एक कंपटीशन है कि कौन बड़ी कैप पहन सकता है। कैप मतलब कंपेटिटिव अपीजमेंट पॉलिटिक्स, कौन ज्यादा कर सकता है।
Mr. Jamai, why give tickets to the Delhi riots accused? Why not just play safe if they've been so controversial?
No, I don't think there is any ban by the Election Commission to giving any tickets or contesting for any accused in any case. If Aam Aadmi Party leaders who were lodged in jail for so many months can contest the election, if BJP leaders who have numerous cases against them they are on bail, having cases very serious and in grievous offences, can contest the election. Why can't Shafaur Rahman and Tahir Hussain, who have some or another case in some or another incidents like Delhi riots, why there is hue and cry?
My colleague Pallavi Ghosh is with us on the broadcast. Pallavi, this is a very, very strong political statement that the AIMIM is making with the series of announcements. This is the second candidate that they have, in fact, announced for Delhi, which happens to be a Delhi riots accused.
Yes, but you know, if you look at the AIMIM constituency, their vote bank, it is clearly the minority vote bank. And as far as the Delhi 2020 riots are concerned, along with the Congress party, they have also maintained the line that, you know, these people have been wrongfully picked up, wrongfully arrested. And the reason that it is being done is because the Delhi police is in cahoots with the central government. And the BJP is trying to push its Hindutva agenda across the country. And even in Delhi, they try to do this because they want to polarize the entire narrative. So it's very clear that Owaisi's party is actually working up its own minority vote bank. So they are not going to be sheepish about it. For the BJP, making this an issue certainly makes sense. It matters because their vote bank is the other one, which is the Hindu vote bank. And they are accusing the parties like Congress or whether it's the AIMIM of not just wooing their traditional vote bank, but also compromising with the national security. Anyone who's a riot accused cannot be given legitimacy by making them a candidate during elections.
Right. Also, while this is happening politically, Pallavi, there was a very strong plea before the Delhi High Court by the Delhi police on the opposition of the bail plea that was being sought as far as these accused. And that also includes student activists like Umar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam. All of these bail pleas were before the court, and opposing that was the Delhi police.
Yes, but what the Delhi police has to say is that we've got hard evidence by way of video footage. We also have ground reality where ground voices and reports tell us that indeed these people who are accused are actually guilty of being stoking the entire riots, of inciting emotions, and that there is evidence to show. And you know, multiple video messages have often come out when we've seen them where they were destroying property or throwing stones and also inciting people. So therefore, as far as the Delhi police is concerned, giving them bail at this point of time would be compromising further investigation and would also give a handle or legitimacy to these people who are trying to seek it by saying that they are being targeted because of their religion.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Pallavi. We are now shifting our focus and getting some breaking news that concerns Sheikh Hasina's stay in India. Now we are learning that India has officially extended Sheikh Hasina's visa against the backdrop of the growing calls in Dhaka for her extradition. The news arrives a day after the interim government of Bangladesh had revoked Sheikh Hasina's passport over violence during the July uprising last year. In Bangladesh, the International Crimes Tribunal already, remember, issued arrest warrant for Hasina. The deadline that was set for it was February 12th. And in December, we'd also learned that the Yunus government had sent a diplomatic note urging India to send the deposed former Bangladeshi Prime Minister back to Bangladesh. So some relief for Sheikh Hasina over there.